Ladies and gentlemen, this is Igor Mitic from Celtics Talk Radio. I'm joined by my partner Daniel Camacho. Today or tonight, it is Sunday, 7th July 2019, around 3:40 p.m. Eastern. We are recording live video chat number 43rd, which is titled Kawhi Leonard is heading to the Clippers alongside Paul George. How does this affect the Celtics and the rest of the NBA? In today's episode, you will hear the Celtics news. A couple of Celtics transfers became official. For example, Kemba Walker sign and trade deal, which made the Celtics hard capped. We will explain what does it mean for the fans not familiar later in details, and also Aaron Baines is traded to the Phoenix Suns, and he will be cut from their roster and joins most likely some contender. Also, Marcus Morris will sign with San Antonio Spurs, 2 years, 20 million. San Antonio Spurs is giving Marcus Morris their full non-taxpayers mid-level exception. Congratulations to Marcus Morris. We wish him the best. We are happy that he didn't end up in Lakers. Also, Kyrie Irving signed today with the Nets, so he's officially a Net. Al Horford didn't sign with the affiliate, but he will sign when they make necessary moves. And about Kawhi Leonard, after waiting, the wait is over. So Kawhi Leonard is heading to the Clippers. According to Vogue ESPN, he narrowed his choice to the two teams, Los Angeles Clippers and Toronto Raptors. And he told those teams, whoever can execute the trade between Oklahoma and you and bring me Paul George, the player I'm recruiting, whoever is going to do it, I'm coming. So the Clippers had bunch of accumulated picks, and they executed the trade. Oklahoma was cut off surprised with desire from Paul George with 2 years left on the contract to leave the team and join either Clippers or Toronto. So they made the best from that trade for them, in my opinion. They got solid players and bunch of picks. Sam Presti maybe did the trade of year. Kawhi Leonard is heading to the Clippers, so he will sign 4 years deal, 142 millions. He turned down more than 220 something millions supermax extension from the Spurs to go to Raptors. Raptors could offer him more money than other teams right now, but he went to Los Angeles to pair with Paul George and to form kind of super team, because they do not have the third top 15 guy. Like Zach Lowe said, I partially agree with that. You have a bunch of teams that are having A+ stars, like LeBron James, like top 5 players, like LeBron James, like Kawhi Leonard, like James Harden, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, like I don't know. And you have the guys that are surrounding them like A- stars. A- stars, not top 10, not top 5, and not top 10 guys. For example, our Kemba Walker, according to Zach Lowe from ESPN, is like A- star. He's not A+ star, and I totally agree with it. So right now, with this move, you have bunch of teams like Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Clippers. Then Golden State Warriors is not super team anymore. They don't have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is going to Brooklyn to join Kyrie Irving. So you have a bunch of teams with two stars, one A plus star and another A minus star. You have duos like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn, like Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson in Golden State, plus Draymond Green. So you have one A plus star and two A minus stars in Golden State. Then in Clippers, you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Paul George is top 5 player, so you can say that the Clippers have two A plus stars. So Kawhi is, MVP and the champion, and Paul George is the first All-NBA team, so he's A plus star. When we talk about free agency, Danny Green from Toronto Raptors, he signed 2 years deal, $30 million with Los Angeles Lakers. So free agent Danny Green signed with the Lakers, $30 million. We will talk a little later with the we will talk a little later about that and what is important. Oklahoma trade. Oklahoma traded Paul George to the Clippers in exchange from Shai Gilgeous Alexander, not a bad player, but not a star. Danilo Gallinari, ex-All-Star, very, very good player. 4 unprotected first-round picks. 4 unprotected first-round picks. 1 protected first-round pick and 2 pick swaps. Dear Lord, 4 unprotected first-round picks, 1 protected first-round pick, and 2 pick swaps. So, the Thunder trading Paul George to the Clippers in exchange from Shai Gilgeous Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 4 unprotected first-rounders, and 1 protected first-rounders, and 2 pick swaps. This is massive trade, and Sam Presti from Oklahoma, Daniel, he did tremendous job by doing this trade, because this is fantastic trade for him. I think that Oklahoma will recover really quickly, and the news flash from Oklahoma that they're trading again, Russell Westbrook. After Russell Westbrook said, okay, I want to stay in Oklahoma, and sign kind of supermax deal, if I'm correct, or maybe 4 years deal. I will find later. I think it was supermax. So they kept him, tried to build around him, but he just regressed. He took step down, get older. He was injured. He's not that quick, and he struggled in some areas like free throws. So he's not what he used to be. Anyway, Oklahoma, after first or second round exits, their owner just do not want to pay the salary tax, and it is like really, it is really like understandable why Oklahoma just don't want to pay the tax for the team that is not going to make at least NBA final. Now, how does this affect the Celtics? I will stop there. So, Daniel, shoot me your opinion. This will have the ripple effect. There are some Celtics fans out there which are saying, well, Kawhi goes to the Clippers. Why do we hear about the Lakers, the Clippers, the Pelicans? So this show is our best attempt to make a picture to those kind of Celtics fans how every single trade, especially those blockbusters trade and moves like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George transfers to the Clippers, how does those moves affect the whole NBA and our beloved Celtics? Because the Celtics are not playing in some space, vacuum, without anybody there. The Celtics are not playing with themselves. The Celtics are playing with 29 other teams. And everything that other teams are doing have, in fact, a short-term or long-term effect to the Celtics and their possibility to win the title. So how would you describe those moves? It was not surprise, Daniel, because we heard before Kawhi Leonard was traded to Toronto that he wanted Los Angeles, but not Lakers, but the Clippers. He wanted from San Antonio to go to the Clippers. Masai Ujiri took a risk, which paid off. And again, the people, stupid people, are trying to spin that they're saying like, you see, like Oklahoma traded for Paul George and Toronto traded for Kawhi Leonard, but they left them, so they should not do it. Everybody should just stick to their own players. We should build throughout the draft. Nobody should make the big trades because there is no loyalty there. And that stupid narrative, we should not trade for Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard because those players are going to be 1 year rental. So what? Keith Smith said today. And I'm going to find it and to read it to you, Daniel, because I'm outrageous at the way of thinking among the Celtics fans. Some of them are in denial, and some of them are not so bright, to tell you the truth, because, I cannot understand the way they are thinking. Anyway, I am trying to find, yes, from Keith Smith. Maybe I will not find it. I'm sure that I posted somewhere, but I will find it later. Never mind. So Keith Smith said that Toronto Raptors actually made a trade which paid off because ultimate goal is to win the NBA championship. And that goal to win the championship should apply to every single team in the NBA, every of the 30 teams. So tanking or developing young players should not be the goal of the teams. It should be winning the championship. So if you're close to win the championship, like Raptors were last couple of years, you should go all in. You should not be afraid to go all in, because again, if you win the championship and that player walk away from you, so what? You have the banner, you have the title. That is ultimate goal. And the people in Boston seems to not understand it. Not in Boston, but the Celtics fans that are not from Massachusetts. Let's say it that way.
Well, unfortunately, we're dealing with a situation with fans that they want to say there's no loyalty when it comes to the players, yet they seem to forget that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are players as well in this case.
Yeah. And in their minds, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are locked to stay with the Celtics the next 10 years. I'm asking how and why. Huh?
Well, Because if we would have been in a position where Tatum and Brown were under contract already, locked up for, let's say, 5 more years, something like that, then it'd be a different set of circumstances. But Celtic fans seem to forget that Jaylen Brown has the ability, if he wants to leave as early as next summer from the Boston Celtics. If you don't think Jaylen Brown is going to be, if he gets an opportunity to make some big time money going to the Knicks or the Nets or the Lakers or the Clippers compared to staying in Boston, if you don't think that's not going to entice him, then obviously you haven't been paying attention. And then in 2 years, Tatum's in the same boat. Tatum can be available to go wherever he wants. Just because these kids basically say they want to stay, if anything, Kyrie Irving proved to all you people that pretty much your word doesn't mean a damn thing until your name is signed on the dotted line in this situation. So these kids can say that they want to stay now, and then think about it, Igor. Right now, you're facing a situation. Let's just say Jaylen Brown, for example. You get rid of Kyrie Irving, bring back in exchange for him Kemba Walker. Ladies and gentlemen, you're now facing a situation that's still similar to what you had last season. There isn't enough space on the starting lineup for all the guys who are capable of starting. You don't have enough starting spots to give to Hayward, Brown, Tatum, and Smart, and Kemba Walker, knowing you need a legit big man in that starting lineup. Unless you're going to go 5 smalls altogether, in this case, and let someone like Hayward be guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo or something like that. So somebody is going to have to be the odd man out. Is it going to be the man you just signed for $32.7 million next season in Kemba Walker? I don't think so. Is it going to be Gordon Hayward, who you got making the most money next season in this case, after you just had him sitting on the bench for most of the season? I highly doubt that. So you're down to now just 2 spots between Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown in this case. What happens if Brad Stevens opts to make Tatum and Smart the one that get the starting spot and Brown is the odd man out? You don't think Brown is going to take offense to that and maybe consider, if I can go get a starting spot somewhere else for just just a couple $1 million less, I'll go that route? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Common sense will tell you he'll walk for that type of an opportunity. Brown didn't want to be a bench player behind Gordon Hayward this year. Terry Rozier didn't want to be a bench player behind Kyrie Irving. So you think that again this season, after Brown was pretty much, you could probably say, the best player, an argument could say the best player for the team in the playoffs, that he's going to accept being a bench player next season? Nah, he finds out that Brad Stevens going to make him a bench player, that brother is guaranteed to walk next summer. As simple as that. Tatum is the only one that pretty much seems like he's guaranteed a starting spot out of those 3 in this situation. And so I think Tatum is more of a lock to stay long term than, Brown. But again, there is no loyalty from the organizations nor from these players, which is why fans gotta make it where they gotta make it where you stop making the players so untouchable. Kawhi Leonard did what he had to do to actually give Toronto, a championship. He didn't want to stay in Toronto mainly because he didn't want to have to carry that team again. He wanted another superstar of some sort, which is why the situation of Los Angeles with the Lakers was so enticing to him, because he knew he had LeBron James and Anthony Davis there, even though he knew what type of a hit his reputation would take if he jumped on the bandwagon. He'll get the same treatment if he would have made that move that Kevin Durant did a couple years ago when he jumped on the bandwagon with the Warriors. If anything, who knows, Leonard probably get a worse treatment than what Durant did a couple years ago. But he wanted to go to a place where he was playing with another top-tier all-star. And so that's why he ended up pushing the buttons to get Paul George to tell the Thunder, I want out. trade me to the Los Angeles Clippers so I can go play with Kawhi Leonard over there. And of course, the Thunder basically decided to give him what he wanted because they realized that technically it wouldn't be long then before he ends up walking away. It's better to get something for him now when he's got a couple years left on his deal than to actually hold on to him and get less when his contract's about to expire in this situation. You know, now you look at it. Toronto, ladies and gentlemen, is probably no longer a threat in the Eastern Conference now that he's gone. Danny Green is gone in this situation. They'll be a playoff team, but they won't be a threat to win the whole thing. Now you can say Milwaukee and Philly are the top two teams in the Eastern Conference with the moves. Yeah, with the moves that have been made. After that, it's a toss-up between who's the next two after that, between you, Toronto, Indy, for example. You know, it's going to come down to those few teams to figure out who's going to end up where. You know, there's been a couple other teams. You got Brooklyn that could still make a run and possibly be one of the top four in this case. You getting Kemba Walker and having him pair with Tatum and Brown doesn't guarantee that you're going to be even better than the Brooklyn Nets this year with Durant being out in this situation. Now, I agree with you, Igor. I'm glad he didn't go to the Lakers because you and me, one thing we were hoping for was that we do not have to hear a bunch of Laker fans talking crap about tying us in the rankings for the most championships all time.
The most lame move of all the times. If he's gone to the Lakers because he's got two top 5 players there, and he would be the third one. So it would be the most lame move of all the times. And Kawhi is not that bad guy, so I knew that he's not going to do it.
You know, but still, I am utterly ashamed at how so many Celtic fans can look at the situation with the Lakers franchise, with them being only one championship behind you. I know several of those titles in this situation come from when they were in another city, but Laker fans don't look at it like that. The Lakers franchise don't look at it like that. For them, as long as it basically is from the same franchise itself, that's all that matters to them in this situation. And so you're just one championship ahead of them for the best franchise in NBA history, and so many Celtic fans are willing to basically say they don't give a crap about that. Let the Lakers go ahead and tie us, because in the end, all we want is these kids basically to develop and make it where it's a fun thing to watch. So really, if that's the case, what the heck is the point of actually looking for a championship to be won? Why not go and watch a bunch of kids playing basketball on the street for all we care, and actually have a nice time watching that? Watching these guys play and rooting for them is because you're hoping in the end they'll bring you a championship, not to actually go the route of having fun.
I do not understand that kind of thinking. Please, if you can explain to me, like I'm hearing from everybody, I understand that they're in denial because, like our friend Mike Dyer said, everybody wanted Kyrie until he went to New York January or February, and then he said, like, I do not own anybody anything. And from there, all the rumors started, all the craziness started, and all the pressure from Boston medias and national medias and Celtics fans started. I can understand New York medias and Los Angeles medias and national medias to apply pressure on Kyrie because they don't want Kyrie in Boston. They want Kyrie in Los Angeles or New York or whenever they are, Miami. But I do not understand Boston medias and the Celtics fans because they acted like they don't want Kyrie Irving. Starting from that statement, and that statement, I can guarantee you, Daniel, was made in New York out of anger because New York media was bugging him with the stupid question, where will you sign in the summer? And he just answered them, with I don't own anybody anything. And that's why the Celtics fans, that's when the Celtics fans starting to make pressure at Kyrie Irving, starting to, believe the sources that are proven to lie to them. For example, Alex Kennedy, he said a couple of days in the free agency that Los Angeles Clippers are out of contention for Kawhi Leonard. Out of contention. But nobody remembered that because the Celtics fans have short memories, just like the chickens. So when that madness created from Celtics fans and media and involved, it eventually ruined the locker room, ruined our season, and of course that Kyrie Irving is left. What I'm trying to tell you, Daniel, is that I do not understand right now the happiness in with the Celtics fans. Okay, this is kind of being a hypocrite, because everybody wanted Kyrie, like I said, before that statement, and now everybody is hating them. However, right now, I do not understand the statement from majority of the fans and the quote. Well, whatever the Celtics do the next season, I'm going to enjoy watching young kids and development. I have advice for those people. Why don't you go and watch Chicago Bulls or Cleveland Cavaliers or Phoenix Suns and root for them? Or better to go watch Harlem Globetrotters because they are playing fun basketball, casual basketball without any pressure for the results. They are developing young talent, young kids. And why don't you go root for another teams? Because Boston Celtics is not a casual team that is going to develop the players 20 years and wait for eventually 1 year where they are going to win the championship. Boston Celtics are the most glorified franchise and the franchise with the most titles in NBA history right now. And I plan and I want that fact to remain that way in the next 5 years. And Daniel, with Los Angeles Lakers trying to form the super team, we were Kawhi Leonard decision away from Los Angeles Lakers becoming a dynasty that would surpass the Celtics for the most titles in NBA history. Now, God bless Doc Rivers and God bless, smart men from Oklahoma, which were also afraid from Los Angeles Lakers super team, according to the reports, Priesty and the guys from Oklahoma. So as Jerry West and the guys from the Clippers. Very smart man, Jerry West. So they constructed the team that will beat the Lakers and convince the next year and hopefully prevent them to tie with the Celtics in number of titles. That is all I care about. I do not care if the Celtics play the most ugliest basketball on the world. All I care if the Celtics team deliver us the championship. Just as you, right?
Yeah, like I said, people that live in the Boston area, remember that we got a bigger situation in terms of the pressure we put on our teams. Come on, just look at the members in our group. We got members in there that may be Celtic fans, but there's no guarantee they root for the Red Sox, the Patriots, and the Bruins as well. When you're someone that's like me that actually roots for all 4 Boston teams,
same here.
You put the pressure. You got your line for those guys is so high for those 4 teams because of what we've been through with them since 2001 with all the championships in this case, that anything short of a championship or at least getting to the finals is unacceptable. Think about it. This past year, you had the New England Patriots who managed to win. The Boston Red Sox were able to win last year. The Boston Bruins came 1 game short of winning the Stanley Cup. The Celtics were the only ones that fell way short of getting to the finals in this case. Meanwhile, you say hypocrite, Igor. The hypocritical situation for me with fans is the argument that many of them made to want to get rid of Irving, which is we made it to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals without him, while Tatum and Brown were the top guys. Now all of a sudden, we warned everyone, you, me, the insiders, we warned all these same fans that if you do not make a deal to get Anthony Davis and bring him over here because Irving was interested in playing with him, you will lose Irving, which means you will also lose Horford, you will also lose Marcus Morris. Sure enough, they allow Davis to end up on the Lakers because they were hesitant to give up Brown and or Tatum to the Pelicans for Davis. Next thing you know, so far we have found out Kyrie has left us for Brooklyn, Horford left us for Philadelphia, and Morris today leaves us to go play for the San Antonio Spurs in this situation. So you and me were dead on when it came to us explaining this to these people, and then yet these people were willing to say, without Irving, we could have won a championship last season. Okay, so basically, even with you and me saying we're going to lose all those guys if we lose Irving, people still continue to push that argument. Now, all of a sudden, he's out of the way. You get another player who scores around the same amount of points Irving does, is going to make around the same money or that Irving does, and plays virtually the same way Irving does, just that he's got a better character, I will admit, than what Irving has. Yet all of a sudden, those same fans that wanted to say we could have won if Irving wasn't around, with Tatum and Brown being the best players.
Irving left us.
Yeah. Now that Irving's gone,
Hornets, and Kemba Walker left Hornets the same way Irving left the Celtics. But Kemba Walker is a good guy and Irving is a bad guy. Please explain me how. And what did Irving do so horrible in Boston?
Well, not only that, Igor, but still, now all of a sudden, after you made the argument that, we could have won without him because we nearly did it the year before, now all of a sudden, it goes from that Tatum and Brown are good enough to win a championship because they're superstars. It goes from that to, we got to let them develop. We got to wait a few years. I'm willing to wait a few years and let the guys develop. So which one is it? Is it that is it that Brown and Tatum really are superstar caliber players that can win us a championship? Or are they kids that really need to develop? In my opinion, Igor, you shouldn't make an argument for anything if you're not willing to stick to your guns, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. Just like they say on TV in this situation, every time something like that, like all these insiders say something, they make an argument, it gets recorded, it could be used in the future against you, Well, ladies and gentlemen, remember, your comments are recorded on the Facebook. We can easily look up anybody that said, let's get rid of Irving because he's the problem. We could win without him. Our guys are good enough. Yeah? So then why all of a sudden is it that you now don't want to put the championship as the biggest thing? Now developing these guys is most important. So then technically, Igor, you people never really had the faith in Tatum and Brown that they are superstar players like you claimed throughout this past season. Your issue was you simply despised Irving, but you could have easily said, I want Irving gone because I just don't like him. I don't like the way he treats our players. I don't, feel he's going to remain faithful. You could have easily made that argument, and you and me maybe could have lived with it. But no, you people go the route of saying we could win without him because these two young kids are good enough to win without him this season, and we lost because of Irving. Now all of a sudden he's gone, and this is what we end up getting. Meanwhile, the Lakers now have LeBron and Anthony Davis. DeMarcus Cousins has joined them. Rajon Rondo has joined them. In this case, you got the moves made, as you mentioned, to the Los Angeles Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi. Who knows who else is going to join forces with those guys? The moves made with the Brooklyn Nets with Durant and Irving and DeAndre Jordan. Of course, Durant is not going to play this season. In this case, Jimmy Butler ends up going down to Miami in this situation. Horford joins Philadelphia in this situation. You got Robin Lopez joining Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo's older brother joins him. So now you got, two sets of twins pretty much now on the Bucks. And yet people all of a sudden now want to backtrack. Really. That's what I call a hypocrite. People that want to backtrack on the statements they made, all because they realize that, oh damn, I didn't actually think that this was going to happen. Or they'll say they say that we didn't say it. Okay, maybe some of you are right. Maybe you never claimed it, but we do know there's a huge group of people out there in the Celtics fan world that was making those claims. Now all of a sudden you're saying, oh damn, all of a sudden we don't have Horford, we don't have Morris. I didn't know that's how the cap worked in this situation. I thought by letting Irving go, we would be guaranteed to be able to sign another superstar. I didn't know we were going to have to let Irving and Horford and Morris and Rozier and all these guys go in order to just get one. Come on. If you people don't really know how the situation works, don't jump the gun in this situation and start making claims. As they say, don't write a check your tush can't cash. If I believe that's the statement in this situation, Igor. Well, that's exactly what these people were doing. They were making statements and making claims, and now they can't back it up in this situation, and now they want to backtrack. For me, that's what I call a hypocrite. But I give the Clippers credit. They did a great job by getting Kawhi and Paul George. The Clippers are my little brother's favorite team in this situation. Right. And it's going to be
But Doc Rivers and Jerry West accumulated the assets. Remember, they gave up 6 picks. And on the other side, Toronto didn't have the picks to execute that trade for Paul George that Kawhi Leonard requested. So if they didn't have those picks they accumulated, they could not execute that trade. But they did good job in accumulating picks and talent. So Doc Rivers and Jerry West did a great job by in mini rebuilding, accumulating the assets, right?
Yep. And again, what is it, ladies and gentlemen, that Doc Rivers and the GM there are willing to actually give up those assets? That's the key. Danny Ainge in this situation has had some decent picks. Of course, the biggest pick we got left, that's another thing people don't seem to realize. Danny Ainge is running low on draft picks. Next summer is the last summer where you technically got another pick coming at you, which of course is the Memphis pick, and that's if it doesn't fall in the top 6. If it does fall in the top 6, then of course you gotta wait until the following summer to get that pick unprotected, and hopefully in this situation the Memphis Grizzlies just continue to stink the next 2 years in order for you to get something really high. But other than that, Danny Ainge doesn't have the first round draft picks from any other teams other than the Grizzlies or himself. Meaning that if you want to trade eventually for a superstar, it's going to come down to you having to give up the players you got on the roster in order to complete it. And that's because he's been using the picks to take kids out of the draft. He used 4 this year alone to draft 4 kids in this situation, So Danny Ainge has gotten to a point where his reputation has become, unless he's winning the trade dramatically, like the way he basically fleeced the Brooklyn Nets all those years ago by giving up KG and Paul Pierce in that deal. Many people seem to feel he fleeced the Cavaliers. Of course, the Cavaliers will beg to differ now that Kyrie Irving is gone, but many people seem to feel unless he's coming away with the best player and he feels he's giving up pennies for that player, he will not make a move. in this situation. That's the reputation that has now been given to Danny Ainge, and it's unfortunate, but he's kind of basically made that look for himself because of the fact that he isn't willing to go all in to make a move for a legit star when he's got to pay the full price for it. He wants it at 50% off, 75% off, 99% off if he can in this situation. And unfortunately, the rest of the league has started to catch up and is not going to continue to give him those major discounts. The only way he can cash in like that is by going to teams that he's got allies with in this case, and even those allies don't seem to want to help him anymore at this point because they're realizing they got to put their own franchises ahead of the Celtics. And so fans got to realize that. You want a superstar, a big-time player, you better be ready to give up some of those assets you have in this situation. And unfortunately, the two biggest assets you got are Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But if you don't want to give those kids up, then you can't complain.
Yeah, and you mentioned Celtics salary cap situation. Not only that, we got rid of all the veterans, and you didn't create the space for two maximum spots like many fans were hoping for. You created the spot for one maximum player, Kemba Walker, which is 4 years, 141 deals committed in Boston. Kemba Walker just sucked all our salary cap. We will be hard capped, which means that we are going to be 138.9 millions or below, hard cap teams. We must explain that you are hard capped by using wait a minute, sign and trade, then by using the mid-level exception, or by wait a second. So the Celtics are one of the 12 hard-capped teams. So these are the teams that are currently hard-capped, Daniel, this season. And dear Celtics fans, hard-capped teams means that your salary cap is projected to be at the upper 138.9 millions, and you cannot cross it by any means. We did sign and trade deal for Kemba Walker and Terry Rozier, and we are hard kept right now, and we cannot cross that line, 138.9 millions, one single dollar. The teams that are hard capped, 12 of them: Boston via sign and trade, Brooklyn sign and trade, Charlotte sign and trade, Chicago sign and trade, Detroit mid-level exception, and biannual exception. So by using that tax-paying mid-level exceptions and biannual exceptions, you are hard capping yourself. Golden State Warriors sign and trade, Indiana sign and trade, Miami sign and trade, Minnesota sign and trade, Orlando mid-level exception, San Antonio Spurs mid-level exception, and Washington mid-level exception. Salary cap this year will be $109.14 million, $109 million, and luxury tax is set 132.62 millions. This is the luxury tax. 132.627 millions. Apron is 138.9 millions. So what is the apron? Apron is marked about 6 millions above the luxury tax. It only really matters if your team becomes hard capped. It's like little cushion where you can spend over the tax, but you only can spend up until 138.9 millions. Okay, your team is hard capping itself by acquiring a player via sign and trade, just like the Celtics did with Kemba Walker, by using part of non-taxpayers mid-level exception that is equal taxpayers mid-level exception that is 4.76 millions, or using biannual exception, which is around 3.2 or 3.6 millions, and only Golden State is one of the teams. So everybody who gets someone via sign and trade uses at least 5.7 millions mid-level exception, or using biannual exception, they are all hard capped. 12 teams hard caps. So if you exceed the hard cap somehow or try, what is the penalty? They void a transaction? Correct. So the league will ban every move that is allowing the team that is hard capped to pass the apron mark, 138.9 millions. In other words, you are not allowed to pass that border line. No way. So if you're hard capped, you can exceed the hard cap by $1. So the Warriors currently working all sort of moves to get down and all sort of salary cap gymnastics to get down, and it has nothing to do with the teams willing to spend. Those are the rules. Last year's 8 teams ended up being hard capped. This year 12 teams on the verge, and this year the 12 teams are on average about 17 millions under the apron hard tax, 138.9 millions. So still a lot of wiggle room for those teams. Everybody is dancing. So only team that is dancing around the hard cap is Golden State. As it stands right now, Boston used almost entirety of their cap space for Kemba Walker. They will save between 2.3 millions and 2.6 to sign their rookies. For example, Carson Edwards, 3-4-year contract against just 2 years. Hunter is going to be signed by room exception, 4.76 millions. This is the exception in which you can cross the salary cap line and sign the free agent. Room exception, 4.7 millions. And Vincent Poirier, the Frenchman, is signed by minimum exception. So how the minimum salary contracts count when calculate for apron. So cap hit is what counts in most cases. A couple of cases where it doesn't count. Any player non-drafted by the team, they are signed with lesser than 2 years. And number 2, any players with more than 2 years that is waived hits books at their actual salary, non the 2-year veteran minimum. Current teams that are 4 teams in luxury tax: Cleveland 12 millions, Golden State Warriors 9.5 millions, Oklahoma 13 millions, Portland 10.7 millions. Only teams with below the salary floor: Atlanta 9.2 millions under. 2 teams have most cap space left: Atlanta 14 millions, Dallas 23. Remaining cap space exceptions continued: Atlanta 14, Boston 0, Brooklyn 0, Charlotte 9.2 millions, Chicago 4.7, Cleveland 5.7, Dallas 22 millions, Denver 9.2 millions, Detroit 2 millions, Houston, 5.7 millions mid-level exception. Indiana, 2 millions plus room exception, 4.7 millions. Los Angeles Clippers still possessing 4.7 millions room. Los Angeles Lakers, 1.9 millions plus the whole exception, 9 millions. Non-tax paying Los Angeles Lakers non-tax paying exception. Memphis, 9.7 million level exception. Miami, Milwaukee, no. Minnesota, 7.2 million level exception. New York, 6.8 millions plus 4.7 millions room exception. Oklahoma, 5.7 millions tax-paying mid-level exception. Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, nothing. Sacramento, 4.5 millions. San Antonio Spurs, 3 millions. Toronto, 8.4 millions mid-level exception. Utah, 1.7 million. And Washington, 3.4 millions. I did breakdown of the salary cap. Now, Daniel, the Celtics used all the room to sign mostly Kemba Walker plus Enes Kanter, and they exceeded salary cap with their own free agents. Now, the next year, 2020, we will have to re-sign Jaylen Brown. Now, if he's not at the All-Star teams or NBA teams, we cannot give him designated rookie extension. We can give him 4 years. Designated extension is that maximum 5th year. So imagine if he got All-Star year and some teams with salary cap like Dallas or Atlanta that I mentioned come to Brown and say, we're going to give you more than Boston, We're going to overpay you. What we will do in this case? What we will do? And the similar question to that experts from our page about Jason Tatum. Who is guaranteeing you that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will stay at the Celtics? And is this smart that you committed Kemba Walker? Is Kemba Walker the player that is going to put you over the top, to put you as a title contenders, just like Kawhi Leonard did with the Clippers? Nope. So why did you sign Kemba Walker and fulfill the rest of the roster with minimum guys and the rookies? I do not understand particularly well. Do you?
Well, again, I think with Kemba Walker, Danny Ainge must feel that this guy is going to be someone who ultimately is going to be not the key piece, but one of the main pieces for the championship team he's looking to build. Whatever plan he has, Walker's absolutely a part of it. Question is, who is the big fish that he's looking to reel in this situation? Enes Kanter has a 2-year deal. Of course, the second year is a player option, so he's got the right to choose whether to come back or to stay on the go back on the open market next summer. Gordon Hayward is the same thing, 2 years left with the player option for the second year, so he can return next season or go on the open market. Jaylen Brown, as we mentioned, has only 1 year left on his deal, and then Danny Ainge, I think, can make him a restricted free agent and try to work something out with him. In this case, Tatum has 2 years left guaranteed because the second year is a team option, if I'm right. So it's a situation where I think Danny Ainge is setting himself up for the potential of going after somebody big for 2021, the summer of 2021. If Danny Ainge is to get any chance of being able to get this team to get back to being the top teams, let's just say it like this. Everybody mentioned Kyrie Irving as being Robin. Kyrie Irving is not a Batman, he's a Robin. Well, Kemba Walker is the same thing. Kemba Walker is somebody that he was good with Charlotte, but did Kemba Walker ever lead that team to the championship?
He had 2 first-round exit in 8 years. He played 11 playoff games.
Exactly.
This is Kemba Walker's experience.
Exactly. Kemba Walker is a great player, but he has never led his team. And now, granted, a lot of that could be blamed on the supporting cast that he has had. Walker was kind of put in a position where it was, a no-win situation because the team didn't know how to pay the right players the right amount of money. They always overpaid, just like they overpaid for Terry Rozier in this situation. But he is not going to be the guy that you can expect to go toe-to-toe with Giannis Antetokounmpo or LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard or Kevin Durant or Steph Curry when push comes to shove and you get to the NBA playoffs in this situation. You're looking to get somebody else come 2021 who is a veteran, who has that experience of playing in that on that big stage, or has the experience of being viewed as a top NBA player and already has earned the respect of not only the peers in the league, his fellow players in the league, but also from the officiating, because the officiating, getting the respect from those officials to get the calls made in your favor is just as critical as having the right guys on the floor in this situation and knowing how to play with them. So Danny Ainge, in my opinion, he's going to look to make this team try to go as far as they can the next 2 years to try and make it like kind of a showing off type 2 years and really use it as a way of being able to show the free agents for 2021 what this team is capable of doing. But that's it. Danny Ainge, unless he makes another trade and gets somebody else to join this team, he is not getting this team no championship this year coming or the year after that, unless a deal is made for a superstar. The way things are going right now, thanks to Kawhi leaving and Danny Green leaving, Toronto is probably behind you right now in the pecking order when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Right now, you're probably the third best team in the Eastern Conference behind Milwaukee and Philadelphia. Question is...
Well, actually, I must correct you. We're still the fourth, and Toronto is still ahead of us. I don't know why, but I will find the odds that I have. Please go on.
Well, again, we know when it comes to the odds, they give Toronto the odds because they're thinking about the fact that they are the defending champions, so they always give them the respect. Right. But we also know that until Kawhi Leonard went this year, Igor, that team always flopped at some point come playoff time. Now you ain't got nobody to basically replace those guys. If you were to tell me that another superstar had gone to take Kawhi's place, it'd be a different story. But so far, they haven't, other than keeping Marc Gasol, they really haven't made any big-time splash to basically keep that group intact. So unless they're expecting Kyle Lowry to really take a step up and really become the superstar player to lead that team...
They will have like Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and the guys from the bench like... What is the name of the guy? That little point guard with Netherlands last name. Never mind. So I will remember. So practically this is the starting five that I named, plus the bench guys. Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, and those kind of guys. Plus, we will see. They have, like I said, the cap space and the room, the exception, mid-level exception, so they can make some moves. We will see. I think that they are stunned with Kawhi Leonard this season still.
Yeah, well, but like I said, unless you're gonna bank that somehow Kyle Lowry is gonna become a big-time superstar come playoff time, which we all know his history has shown. The moment you get to the playoffs, he basically craps in his pants and really can't do nothing to lead that team. At some point, his team can get through the teams that are no good. The moment he faces a team that really has a legit chance of beating his team, he basically poops in his diaper pretty much, and his team ends up getting beat. This year was a different story because he didn't have to take the lead role for his team. Kawhi Leonard did in this case, and he was able to take the role as a secondary piece behind Leonard.
Even behind Danny Green and Leonard.
Exactly.
Anyway, I would bet that Pascal Siakam will become the leader of Toronto Raptors, not Kyle Lowry. I really rate so high this kid, and this kid played like superstar and gave them championship. And if they don't trade him, and I heard that Oklahoma actually wanted to trade for Pascal Siakam. I'm not sure Westbrook, or maybe they wanted Pascal Siakam to give them Paul George. So Raptors refused to trade Pascal Siakam, which is the right move. So in other words, I think that kid will be the great player. And if I have to bet, like I said, they will build, Masai Ujiri will build around young guys, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet. Yes, I remembered. Those guys from the bench,
Yeah, but like I said, even if Siakam is the one that takes over the leadership role, it's quite a difference when you can get rid of a top 5 player from that roster and start focusing on everybody else one-on-one, compared to having to load up and double and triple team guys, leaving a bunch of those other guys wide open. Which is why I say, Kemba Walker, I expect him to basically do exactly in Boston what we saw him doing in Charlotte, scoring-wise. Yeah. He's going to come away with
like 25 points and 5 assists in 82 games, and kudos to him. He's the one of 2 players last year that played all 82 games in regular season and had 25 points and 5 assists average. The other is, if I'm correct, Bradley Beal from Washington Wizards. But that's where I expect Walker to be, like you said.
Yeah.
Please go on.
Yeah, so, Walker and Tatum, in my opinion, are capable of negating the impact that guys like Siakam and Lowry are going to have scoring-wise in this case. That means it comes down to guys like Brown, Hayward, Smart, those guys doing what they got to do to take out the rest of that bench and the rest of the other guys who really, like I said, this season, it's been proven. This season was one thing because they always had Leonard to take the lead role and give them easy shots. But back when they had DeRozan, a lot of these guys that we see on this team now, several of them were there when DeRozan was with Lowry, and the team was terrible. In this case, they could get regular season was one thing, but the moment the playoffs got involved and everything, like Stephen A. Smith says, but the butts get tight and they realize that this could be it. If we don't win if we lose 4 out of 7, our season is over. There is no several months to prepare in the situation. We saw these guys struggle. So our guys have a legit shot to knock out the Raptors if we were to go against them. Just like we have a legit shot, in my opinion, to knock out Indy. We would be able to knock out Miami, in my opinion. The only 2 teams in the Eastern Conference now that are head and shoulders better than you, at least for this season, is the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah,
the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are the only ones you can say there's a question mark, because right now all the reports say that Kevin Durant is done for the season. He will not play at all this year. That the Nets will hold him out.
Danny, I'm going to slightly disagree with you, because I'm waiting for more dominoes to fall. For example, I'm waiting for Mr. Russell Westbrook and Adams to settle down, because that right now Sam Presti is going to shop their stars in Oklahoma, because they do not want to pay the luxury tax for the team that is not going to be in the NBA Finals or Conference Finals, at least. Oklahoma owner. So they are shopping Russell Westbrook, and guess who is the favorite for landing Russell Westbrook? You have 3 times to guess. Yes, of course. Miami Heat. So, Miami already have Jimmy Butler, and if they pair Jimmy Butler and Russell Westbrook, I think that they lost Hassan Whiteside. I'm not sure. I didn't watch their roster, but they have their players.
They gave him up.
Right?
Yeah, they gave him up, Whiteside.
Whiteside is not member of the Heat. But anyway, if you pair Russell Westbrook with Jimmy Butler and the rest of the roster, if you sign maybe 1 or 2 free agents, I think that Miami can be in the conversation for 5th or 6th spot at the Eastern Conference. Number 5 in my books, still Indiana Pacers. I think that they improved. They have Malcolm Brogdon. They signed somebody else. I cannot remember from the top of my head, but Indiana really, I think, improved. I think that they signed 1 or 2 free agents. So Indiana still the treat to us. We beat them 4-0, but it was close. They gave us the run for the money. Now they will have Vitor Oladipo back. They have Malcolm Brogdon. Wes Matthews went to Milwaukee Bucks. Practically, you can say that they made a swap with Milwaukee. Wesley Matthews went to Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and Malcolm Brogdon went to Indianapolis. So Indiana is another team to look, number 5. Nets, like you said, without Kevin Durant, not top 6 teams in my opinion. Maybe they will be. We will see. But the team that we must not sleep on is Miami, because Miami is trying to build the team around Jimmy Butler. And I heard from Kevin Dixon that the favorites to land Mr. Russell Westbrook are Miami Heat and Detroit Pistons. So it will be still interesting to see where those dominoes will fall. And finally, will Steven Adams stay in Oklahoma? If they blow up the team, if they are in rebuilding mode, will Steven Adams stay in Oklahoma? I really don't know about it. So if Miami got Westbrook, I'm going to say that he is going to be the treat to the Celtics. I don't know the bench and the rest of the roster, of course. What do you say?
Well, again, it's all going to be based on what Miami is going to have to give up. Because remember, if what you're saying is true, that they want to try and make it where they're no longer a tax team, in this case meaning the Thunder, the only way to do that is to actually make it where you're sending someone like Westbrook to a team that actually has cap space available. Giving him up for, as they say, if you're giving up a guy that makes $32 million for one player or for 5 players that combined make $32 million, you ain't really doing anything different in this situation. Remember, the Miami Heat, the reason they got Butler was because the 76ers signed and traded him to the Miami Heat in this situation, because the Miami Heat were over the cap already as it was. So this is a situation where I really don't know how the Thunder in this situation, unless they get something really big in exchange, they're not going to get the benefit of making themselves go really, really below the tax line by making a deal with the Miami Heat and just taking a bunch of their players they don't want that comes near the amount in the situation that Russell Westbrook is making. Like you said, it's going to have to be that they make a couple other moves, but at some point those moves are going to have to be made with teams that have cap space. You mentioned earlier there's only 2 other teams left that really have cap space left. Dallas,
Atlanta,
and Atlanta. The Thunder will have to probably look at one of those 2 teams for help in order for this to work. in this situation if they want to go below the tax line. Unless, the Thunder manage to get, like, let's say a bunch of, 1-year deals with players whose contracts are not guaranteed and they can cut them, basically, stuff like that. Maybe that could work in this situation. But it's going to be difficult for the Thunder to make a deal like that, really knowing that that's what they're aiming for. They're not aiming just to get rid of Westbrook because they want to get, a couple other players in exchange. They're trying to get some sort of relief from the luxury tax, and you're not going to get it if you're just getting the same amount of money back in exchange or anywhere near the same amount in this situation. So even with him, let's just say for argument's sake he does make it over to the Thunder. You're still in a situation where you, Brooklyn, the Indiana Pacers, and the Miami Heat are basically looking at number 3 through number 6 in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
The
dogfight for number 3 and 4. Practically, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because we know who's going to be number 1 and number 2 the way it's looking this year, barring a major injury to somebody critical like with the Milwaukee Bucks, barring an injury to Antetokounmpo or Middleton, because those are probably the only 2 players that team can't afford to lose, or with the 76ers, barring an injury to Embiid, Horford, or Tobias Harris in this situation, because we all know Ben Simmons, he can't hit a jump shot to save his life in this case, so technically you really don't have to worry about him. So barring injuries to those guys, for those two teams are going to be the number 1 and number 2 seed. It's just a question of technically which one is going to be 1 and which one's going to be 2. But the Celtics, the Pacers, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Miami Heat, if they do manage to get Westbrook, like you're saying, will end up being the teams that finish 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. But once again, it's all about which ones are going to finish in which spots exactly in this case. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, that's where we say in this situation, this takes you right back to 2017 and 2018, Igor. 2017, 2018, the Celtics were pretty much in a position where you could say they were behind in many people's view. They weren't the first or second best team in the Eastern Conference. They were somewhere like, 3rd or 4th.
Let me read for our viewers and listeners, because we're talking 15 minutes about it, and I have a couple of odds. Let me find and read you and our viewers the odds for the championship 2020 and 2021. The odds, one moment, I apologize. But again, I know that the Celtics are like 4th in the Eastern Conference and number 9 overall, or number 10 in the whole NBA. Now, some of the odds are, for example, ESPN odds, the Clippers plus 300, number 1, number 2, Los Angeles Lakers, plus 400. Lakers are tied with Milwaukee Bucks, plus 400. Practically, Milwaukee Bucks projected to win the Eastern Conference by ESPN. Number 4, Philadelphia, plus 700. So projected conference finals, Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia, and Clippers, Lakers by ESPN. Behind them, Houston, plus 100. Now, I will find different odds where you can... Okay, so best odds to win the title by Caesars Sport Book. Number 1, Clippers again, 11-4. Number 2 and 3, tied, Lakers and Bucks, 4-1. The 76ers, 7-1. And the Warriors here at Caesars Sports not the Houston Rockets, like ESPN. The Warriors, number 5, at Caesars Sportsbook, 10-1. 10-1. The Clippers favorites, 11-4. And the Celtics, according to Caesars Sportsbook, 20-1. Down below those odds. I think that I have somewhere else the odds. When I find them, I will read them. Do you want to comment? Yes, here is. So, according to Jeff Sherman, his updated odds: number 1 Clippers, 3-1. Number 2 Milwaukee, 4-1. Number 3 Lakers, 6-1. Number 4 Philadelphia, 7-1. Number 5 tied Houston and Golden State, 10-1. Utah, 12-1. Denver, 14-1, and Boston, 20-1. So the Celtics are, according to Jeff Sherman, NBA, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number 9, 20-1 to win the title, the Celtics. So that's practically it. The places are similar, just the odds are different from source to source, Las Vegas and the other betting odds. So, but right now the Clippers are the favorites. Here, another odds, and the Clippers first, Lakers second, Bucks third, Sixers fourth, Rockets fifth, Warriors sixth, Raptors seventh, Jazz eighth, Boston number 9, 20-1 or plus 2,000. That's it. Wanna comment?
Well, again, like I said, pretty much you see that it seems like we're looking at, in most people's opinion, the Celtics are going to be right there somewhere at near the top. We're not going to be number 1 or number 2 unless there's some sort of injury situation that bites the 76ers or bites the Milwaukee Bucks, or unless Danny Ainge makes a catastrophic move to bring in a big-time name to help these guys midway through the season. So you're going to be right there amongst the Raptors, amongst the 70s, amongst the Nets, amongst the Pacers, fighting for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. This is exactly what we were looking at in a way, if you think about it, Igor, back in 2017-2018. That season, there were 2 teams labeled ahead of you. Cleveland, Toronto. Those were the 2 teams that were the perennial powerhouses in most people's opinion. The Celtics were 3rd in this situation because it was their first year coming together, and everybody wondered how would this team gel in this situation with Irving and Hayward and all these guys coming in. Well, all of a sudden, in this case, what did we end up seeing? We saw Hayward take a major injury and go down. Irving continues to carry the team throughout the season, keeps you ahead of Toronto and Cleveland for most of the season until he gets hurt and starts missing games. He tries to fight through it to try to remain with the team, but ultimately is lost for the season. Toronto jumps ahead. They finish in first. You finish in second. LeBron and the Cavs, they finish in third. In fourth in this case. And so because of it, you finish in a position where you didn't have to face Toronto or Milwaukee in round 1. You didn't have to face them at all in round 2 because you were seeded as the 2nd spot, so you faced the 3rd seeded Philadelphia 76ers. This year that we just passed, there were 3 teams that you had to worry about that were basically teams that people felt could have finished ahead of you and could have knocked you off. Philly, Toronto, and Milwaukee. So regardless of where you finished in the top 4, you were going to have to face one of those 3 teams in the second round, so long as the team that you were slated to face in round 2 didn't screw up in round 1. So now we go to next season, you're back to 2017-2018. 2 teams if you can avoid, because if those two teams finish in the first and second seed, that's it. You're stuck having to get through one of them in this situation in order to actually get to the third round. Or if one of them finishes in first and finishes in third, you're still stuck in that situation. You need them to finish in a position of the bracket where they face each other, first and fourth, or second and third, while you avoid the exact same bracket in this situation. People don't seem to realize that. Odds are you're not going to finish in first place this year in the Eastern Conference. Odds are you're not going to finish in second in this situation. Or odds are none of those teams are going to finish in fourth. The worst is maybe third in this case. So you're in the same position, two teams ahead of you, and yet what are we going to witness? What are we going to witness this season from these kids with Kemba Walker? Are you going to be able to finish in second place? Are you going to finish in third, or are you going to finish in fourth or below? But again, the Eastern Conference this year, the overall teams, Igor, have gotten better in terms of, the teams below you have gotten better. Indiana has gotten better. We all know Brooklyn now is better. Miami has gotten better. But the teams ahead of you, now it's gone down. Milwaukee and Philadelphia now are the only ones in your way. Really. Toronto is no longer one of those teams that is head and shoulders ahead of you, like you would have said maybe in the past few years. So it's gotten to that situation where we could say, if you can't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, or at least give a legit run, then in reality, this just proves, once again, 2017-2018 was a damn fluke. Everybody wants to make a big deal about 2017-2018. Oh, you beat Milwaukee then. You beat Philadelphia then. Well, this year, you only got to beat one. You only got to beat one of those teams to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And you're telling me now you can't do it? Trust me, there is no excuse.
I mean, if we talk realistically, our team will depend on many factors. Our team is like unknown. Kemba Walker, like you said, I expect him to play like Kemba Walker and has the exact same numbers like in Charlotte. Enes Kanter is extremely good offensive player and rebounder, but he's the defensive hole, and that is why he cannot stay on the floor more than 24 minutes per game. Realistically and ideally, he will play like 18 and 20 minutes per game. The problem with the Celtics lies that in that front court, Daniel Theis is the only stretch big, and Brad Stevens' system requires stretch big that can spread the floor. The rest of the centers, Robert Williams, Grant Williams can shoot the threes. We saw that last night in the win against the Sixers in the Summer League. But Grant Williams is not top 4 rotation. He's maybe 5th guy rotation. Maybe Taco Fall will be there. We will see. But from top 4 guys, the only guy that can stretch the floor is Daniel Theis. Daniel Theis cannot play 5. He cannot guard opponents' centers. We saw that. The people are high on Theis, and they are forgetting that we were losing the games because the opponent's centers were abusing Theis down the low. Same with Gershon Yabusele at 5. So those experiments failed. Yet the Celtics re-signed Theis, 2 years, $10 million. They have hope in him. The best of luck to Theis. He's the only stretch big. He shot it 38% the last year. The Frenchman is not Vincent Poirier. Poirier is not the stretch big. He is classic center, solid on the defense, but and also the good role man on the offense, but unknown how he will adapt in the NBA. Robert Williams, I like what I saw. He is the starting potential. He is skinnier. He lost weight. He moves well. Ball handling is well. And the Celtics expecting from him to be the defensive anchor. You know, the defense. The counter offense, the Rob Williams defense. So at the center position, it will be like committee. How much the Celtics will do win-wise and playoff-wise, it will depend much more of the three guys in the middle. Those are Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward. And if Gordon Hayward and Jason Tatum are at the All-Star levels, plus Kemba Walker in the All-Star level, Boston Celtics have the chance to eliminate either Bucks, either Philadelphia 76ers. I still don't see it, you know. It is hard for me to imagine it, considering all the roster constructions for those teams, but it is possible, you know, on the paper. So we depend on development of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and recovering of Gordon Hayward. And that's practically it. I want to point a couple of things before we wrap up the show. The Clippers roster. At 1, they have Patrick Beverley and Landry Shamet. Number 2, Paul George and Lou Williams. Number 3, Kawhi Leonard and Rodney McGruder. Number 4, Mo Harkless and Mfiondu Kabengele. Number 4, Ivica Zubas and Montezi Harrell. The stack team, and Lou Williams and Harrell are the closers. If Kabengele is good, as the Clippers writers think, he could cover the interior defense issues the Celtics fans are screaming about. To that Clippers team. I'm trying to find, I had somewhere the comparison between the Lakers and the Clippers, construction of the team wise, so that you give me your opinion. So we know that among the Lakers, we know among the Lakers that yes, Lakers right now, Rajon Rondo, wing, Cook, point guard, shooting guard, Danny Green, Troy Daniels, small forwards, LeBron James and Fontavious Caldwell-Pope, power forwards, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma, centers, DeMarcus Cousins, Javal McGee. The stack teams from Los Angeles, who do you think will win the battle for Los Angeles, Daniel?
Well, I have a feeling right now it's going to end up being, in terms of the ones getting the fan base to really just get the people to go behind them, you're going to get more people rooting for the Lakers, and it's mainly because of the fact that they are the original LA team. It's kind of like the situation that you see with New York. Everybody is desperate for the New York Knicks to basically get back into contention and being a legit team, because they are the original team for the city. Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets, are a team that came from New Jersey to come to the New York area, is in a different borough, but they're kind of like, as they say, little brother. The Knicks are the big brother, the Brooklyn Nets are the little brother. And so everybody that's anybody in New York, for the most part, unless you're somebody that lives in the borough of Brooklyn, which of course is where I come from. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. You are pretty much rooting for the Knicks to be the one that you would have been rooting for the Knicks to be the ones to get Irving and Durant if you were living in New York and you pretty much wanted a New York team to get back to contention. So long as you are not from the Brooklyn area, you were probably rooting for the Knicks. LA is the same thing. The only difference is it's a little bit difficult more for them because both LA teams play in the same arena. They play, pretty much. You can say in a situation where, the fans really have to divide and really have to make up their minds, because you can't have both teams playing in the same city at the same time unless they're playing each other. One team has the locker room to the right, one team has the locker room to the left. So I think fans are going to go rooting for the Lakers, mainly because they know that the Lakers in this situation are the ones that are close to making history, fighting with us for the right to be known as the NBA's best franchise in history overall. The Clippers, they ain't nowhere near the discussion for the best franchise in NBA history. Then whichever team ends up going the furthest, the moment one team basically is eliminated, the fans from the other franchise are going to jump on the bandwagon and start rooting for the other team. So let's say the Lakers and Clippers go at it in round 2, Igor. If the Lakers get eliminated, all the Laker fans are going to root for the Clipper fans starting in round 3. And same thing vice versa. If the Lakers dispose of the Clippers in round 2, it's going to be the Clippers fans rooting for the Lakers. That's the way it's going to work in this situation. People in these cities, Igor, do not know how great they got it in the fact that they got 2 sports teams or more in some cases representing their state. Think about it. You know how much more dominant the Massachusetts could be, or New England overall, if there was actually more sports teams representing this area instead of just the Patriots, the Celtics, the Red Sox, and the Bruins only? No, New York, they need the Knicks, the Nets for basketball. They need the New York Jets, the New York Giants, the Buffalo Bills for football, the Mets and the Yankees for baseball, the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders, the Buffalo Sabres, I believe it is, for hockey. Like, come on. LA, you're the same thing. The Dodgers and the Angels, the Lakers and the Clippers in this case. And then, of course, you can't forget the Sacramento Kings up in Sacramento, California, if I'm right in this situation. You got the LA Kings in this situation. These states, how many freaking teams do you need in these states representing one whole state to go toe-to-toe with all the other states that have only one team? It's ridiculous in this situation. Unfortunately, that also robs a lot of other teams of the right to actually be in the mix to get some of these players. I think, Igor, if the Clippers didn't exist and it was only the Los Angeles Lakers out there, what would Kawhi Leonard have done? Would he have stood in Toronto? Would he have gone to maybe New York? Or would he have gone to another smaller market? Same thing with Kyrie and Durant. If the New York Knicks were the only ones that you had in New York, but you had issues with the fact that James Dolan, if I'm correct, is still the owner, and you basically don't like the way he's running things, what would you two have done? Sucked it up and actually gone to the Knicks to deal with that guy? Or would you have basically gone back to the teams you were with, or try to find another team somewhere else? It's bad enough that these markets have such a major advantage over the other markets, right? Because the players know. Like, think about it. People wonder, why in the world would these players take less to go to Brooklyn? It's easy to understand. Going to Brooklyn compared to staying in a small market. The small market, contract-wise, can maybe give you more money, but going to New York or going to LA means You're going to make money from shoes. You're going to make money from selling jerseys, from selling shirts. You got the chance of being involved in movies, the way LeBron James is doing with Space Jam 2. You got potential for being involved in commercials. You know, come on. Ain't nobody interested, Igor, in signing a guy that represents, let's say, New Orleans, when they can get the superstar from New York or the superstar from LA. These players are realizing the extra money that they can basically gain from staying in those small markets. They can easily make it up by going to New York and LA and getting it through other, partnerships with other locations, in other ways, which is why it's so easy for them to give up on those teams. But what happened if you didn't have 2 teams in New York, or 2 teams in Los Angeles, or 3 teams in the state of Texas, for example? Get rid of the Rockets and get rid of the Mavericks and just leave it with the Spurs, or one of the other 2 and get rid of the Spurs in this situation. What would the situation be for these players if that was the case? In my opinion, I absolutely hate it. I hate it. I'm sure you hate it, seeing this happen, knowing that what happens now? Give it a couple years. The next time that teams like us and some of these other smaller market teams have a chance to get a big-time star, what's going to happen? Oh, because LeBron James' contract expires, now another guy that we could potentially get says, screw you.
LeBron James is something worse that happened to the NBA. I said it back in 2003, where he was still in the high school, and when he was promoted to be the superstar from the high school. I'm not saying that he's not talented. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve to be the champion and top 5 or top 10 best players of all the times. But LeBron James and his whole influence on the NBA that is mainly negative, practically during Commissioner Stern era, I think that it ruined NBA. And NBA continued to fall down during Commissioner Adam Silver era. And what is really interesting that the fans think, Daniel, that this is cool, this is great. And I was listening to, tell you the truth, Zach Lowe pod, preparing for this conversation, and I was pretty much shocked, because those guys, Zach Lowe and Mr. Adrian Wojnarowski, or famous Woj, NBA, the most reliable insider in the NBA, or second most reliable insider, with Shams Charania from The Athletic. So Woj and him practically said that Kawhi Leonard's decision not to make a super team in Los Angeles with the Lakers, that decision practically is what Adam Silver wants, because you have more equal teams with 2 stars, one A+ star, another star is like A- star, etc., etc. So, I mean, come on. I must quote Ryan Bernardoni, ex-Sports Hub editor, and Ryan Bernardoni, this is the appropriate way to finish the show. Pardon. I'm with Ryan 100%. Quote, I keep hearing people talk about the NBA entering a new age of parity, and this being said, exactly what the league wants and Commissioner Silver. And I disagree to 100%, and it is making me think I'm nuts. Lowe and Woj pod has me on tilt. Same with me. It's going to be every single normal person has reaction that he wants to puke when he's heard Lowe post and Woj and the spinning. So, continuation of Ryan Bernardoni. It's going to be fun year, yes, and the league should do well in the ratings on short term. I understand that from the short-term standpoint. But is the league as is in 30 ownership groups spread across very different markets really super excited that every single free agent who matters in the NBA wants to go only into California, New York, and Florida? So how can teams that are having Giannis Antetokounmpo, Karl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic be excited knowing that you cannot even trust the players who commit to you? To see that winning a title isn't good enough to hold it together. I think we're starting a period of turmoil, not golden age, of competitive parity and league stability. The dark age of the NBA. At the same time, we're closing in on the draft new teams every off-season fantasy that everyone's talking about for a while, Boston Celtics fans included. I could not said it better, Daniel, because think about this, what happened with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is the loss of the small market teams. So this is triumph of victory of the big market teams from California, from New York, and from Florida, because the people want to go only in those teams' NBA. This will ruin NBA on the long run. Ran Bernardoni is totally correct. This will ruin NBA. And the people do not see it. I'm sorry, because the other teams will not invest and the league will be weaker. And eventually, the big teams will not have the quality players to recruit from the small market teams, because the point of the whole league to have parity and equal quality is that the league is producing quality players. And those quality players, I understand, they are going from small market teams to the big market teams because small fish eats the big fish. But this, what NBA medias and commissioners Adam Silver are doing, intentionally or unintentionally, I don't care. This is the disaster. This is making favorites of some teams and markets that I mentioned. California, New York, and Florida. And all the other markets have been presented just like the towns from the medieval, They have been presented like the towns with the plague and diseases, the bad climate, and nobody wants to go there. And it eventually becomes true, because if you spin every single day for years and decades, the people will start believe in your spin. And NBA is in the worst position from its foundation. It is going into the dark era, and it all started with the James 2003. He brought in the new era of NBA not being loyal. So he will be responsible towards the history and future generations, because those generations today are blinded or stupid by the medias. But the future generation will say LeBron James and his draft is the point from where NBA starts falling down and crumbling and crippling. And that's simple it. We are entering into turmoil era, into dark era, and we hope for the best for our Boston Celtics. What do you say? The closing words.
Well, it's as simple as that, like you just mentioned. Right now, if you're not the Miami Heat, or the Brooklyn Nets, or the New York Knicks, or the Los Angeles Lakers, or the Los Angeles Clippers, you gotta fight in order to have a chance at times to even get a meeting with some of these guys. There are some teams that get the opportunity to get some of these guys simply because of their history or who they have, running things. You got the Boston Celtics because of the history that they got as the winningest franchise overall. You got the San Antonio Spurs because of what they've done under Greg Popovich, his reputation as a coach and a general manager. He's well respected, so he gets that benefit in this situation. But that's really it. Other than those two teams, every other team other than those two that's not in a New York City or Miami or Los Angeles, because
New York and Florida.
Because don't even say California, Igor. Because look at Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah.
Yeah, Sacramento is in California, and even they don't get the same rights in the situation that the Los Angeles Lakers and Clippers get. So unless you're in the actual city itself, Los Angeles, New York, or Miami, or unless you're from an organization that's well respected around the world, like the Boston Celtics or the San Antonio Spurs, you don't get much. You don't get much from these superstars today when it comes to wanting to stay with your team or sign with you, unless they realize that the team that they want to go to originally is either A, not interested in them, or B, in this situation, is not interested, or should I say doesn't have the money available to sign them. Like I said, look at what would have happened this summer, ladies and gentlemen, or what could have happened if Kawhi Leonard didn't have the Clippers as an opportunity to go sign with. He could have either signed with the Los Angeles Lakers, so there's a chance he could have stayed with the Lakers, but look at what that would have cost. That would have meant the Lakers would have been out of the running for the next few years to get anybody, period, in this situation. Their big three would handicap them from getting any other superstar from any of the other teams for the next few years, in this case. But no, he ends up going to the Clippers with Paul George now, so both LA teams now have two superstars in this situation involved. And what are we looking at? LeBron now, his contract expires in a few years, and if he decides, let's say, to just call it quits, now a superstar spot could be open for the Los Angeles Lakers. So now any superstar that basically teams like the Celtics, the Knicks, or something like that would have wanted is going to want to go run and take his position in this situation.
Of course.
Same thing in New York. The New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets were both set up to try and go and get some big-time players, and only one of them got what they wanted. And it's not because the New York Knicks in this situation, the city isn't of intrigue. It's because they got a terrible owner who's got a bad reputation. Once the owner, because right now it's being reported that he is looking to sell the team because he's tired of being trashed by the fans and them basically driving him nuts for the fact that he failed to get the two guys they all wanted. Once he sells that team, Igor, the Knicks are going to go back to being a place that teams superstars want to play for. It's going to be, at some point, some superstar is going to want to sign and say, let me test this guy and let's see what happens. Yet, while this happens, teams like the Hornets, teams like the Pelicans, teams like, just that you can name almost any one of them, the Washington Wizards, the Sacramento Kings, all these other small market teams that don't have the intrigue when it comes to the city itself being able to offer anything else but you just playing for them, are now going to be in a position where they continue to get screwed even more. Because right now, even though the Knicks are a team that could have signed somebody, really, it was the Brooklyn Nets, the Clippers, and the Lakers that were your main threats. Once the Knicks guy sells his team, now you're going to have 4 teams, 5 when you include Miami, that are basically going to be hogging up everything. Which is why, for one, it is pitiful that those 5 teams aren't winning, at least one of them isn't winning every damn year in this situation, because of the fact that they're getting all the best players to want to go to them, in this situation.
Right.
And actually, we just mentioned California. You got the Golden State Warriors. How can we forget them? San Francisco.
That's
in this
what
case,
I said.
California. So
because Golden State, that's what I meant. Yeah.
With
Los Angeles Lakers, Clippers, and Golden State. We forgot Golden State.
Yeah.
So those three: Lakers, Clippers, Golden State Warriors, New York Knicks, Brooklyn Nets, and Miami. Those six. Plus, you mentioned Boston and San Antonio potential destination as B-side, and that's it.
Yeah, but like I said, the main thing here is that Sacramento, nobody's going to want to go play for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so long as they got the Lakers and the Clippers as an option. The Golden State Warriors, the only reason they have anybody going to them is because they got Curry, Green, and Thompson there.
And Thompson.
Yeah.
Right.
The moment those guys get up and decide to pack their bags and leave the team, let's say that ends up happening, ain't nobody going to want to go to Golden State. The moment that those guys are gone and that team is no longer, the juggernaut it's been over the past few years, especially if they know, San Francisco, Golden State, or Los Angeles to the Clippers or the Lakers, or to New York to play for the Knicks or the Brooklyn Nets. So unfortunately the commissioners that have been here have not made it a level playing field for all these teams. Which is why, again, it is pitiful that some of these teams, some of these states that have only one team can continue to compete and can continue to win championships, and yet a city like Los Angeles has two teams, a city like New York has two teams, and yet those teams can't finish ahead or even win a championship before some of these other locations that have only one. But we're headed exactly like you said, Igor, in a position where at some point fans are going to quit. Fans are not going to be interested in continuing to watch. Like, for example, 2021, Igor. I mentioned it earlier. 2021. Giannis Antetokounmpo's contract is up. Does he ditch Milwaukee to go to Los Angeles or to go to New York? Or to go down to South Beach, or to come to us, or go to, San Antonio? If that happens, Milwaukee fans ain't going to want to keep watching the team because it's going to take years before anybody's interested in going back to Milwaukee. They're going to have to hope to get, to grab another golden jewel in the NBA draft like they did when they drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because no free agent is going to sign there to try and help them get their fan base back to watching them in this situation. So what happens with him? Does he decide to stay loyal, or does he decide to go try to become a bigger star in terms of, I already got the name because I'm already a big star in Milwaukee and I'm already viewed as a top player. Now it's time for me to reap the benefits by going to a bigger city that can offer me more than what this city can. Does he do that? It's gotten to that point where, like we said earlier, you can't trust anyone. Which is why you and me, we don't trust Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to really actually go the route of keeping their words if they feel they really are as good as they think they are. And then eventually one of those teams can come away and say, hey, we'll give you the money, we'll make you a bigger star here in our city than what you could be in Boston because you have opportunities here that Boston can't offer.
Especially after Jason Tatum signed Nike deal, if I'm correct, Michael Jordan's brand. So he's the new face of that brand, and I'm sure that Jordan sees him in some big city that we mentioned.
Like I said, you think about it, Igor. Think the Celtics. Since I've been watching paying attention to Boston sports, the two big names that have joined this franchise have been a part of this franchise has always been Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. And how much did those guys get in terms of getting all the commercials, getting all the movie premieres, all that stuff, that treatment. Think. Garnett was probably the only one you can say that was probably given that respect of being called a top 5 player at some point during his tenure here in Boston. Paul Pierce, right. I never, even though I feel he was one of the best players in the league, you never really saw anybody giving him that respect and saying Paul Pierce is a top 5 player in this case. The only 2 people that, in my opinion, that have played Boston sports since I've been watching that have really taken themselves to that upper echelon of being well respected overall in their sport and really getting those benefits is Tom Brady and David Ortiz, ladies and gentlemen. And there's no denying that, because not even Zdeno Chara, who is the captain of the Boston Bruins, he's remained loyal to this city, not even he has been given the same type of treatment that those guys have been given in this situation. Tom Brady and David Ortiz, they can walk the city streets, and those streets you'll see people basically eat off the street that they walk on, pretty much because of the fact that those 2 walked on it. Zdeno Chara doesn't get that same type of treatment in this situation. So these young kids, I'm sorry, Igor, but we're in an NBA sport where pretty much it's really only 3 cities. 3 cities that really mean a damn thing to the commissioner and the league itself overall when it comes to basically making sure they have a contending team overall. They know they got to have a few decent teams because you need 16 teams to get to the NBA playoffs in this situation. But the NBA knows, so as long as they got somebody legit in Los Angeles, somebody legit in Miami, and somebody legit in New York, they are better off because that means a big chunk of cash is coming in from the fans and those fan bases. When you can make it that 2 teams from those cities, New York and LA, both teams are part of the conversation, forget it. It's a dream come true for the commissioner and the people in charge. In my opinion, we will never see, Igor, we will never see this sport get back to being a sport where it's really, truly competitive and every team has a legit shot until we see it go back to a situation where we have less teams overall and each state has 1 team on it. So long as, you got 2 teams in LA, 2 teams in New York, 3 teams in the whole state of Texas, 4 teams the whole state of California, those places are always going to get the benefit because even though Golden State and Sacramento may not be LA itself, they're still closer. LA is still closer to Golden State and Sacramento are still closer to LA than Boston is, so people will prefer them in this situation. People will prefer Philly over Boston because of the fact it's closer to New York than what Boston is. People got to realize that. And so I feel sorry for these small market teams because they've been dealt a sour hand. The more teams that keep going to these bigger markets in this situation, with the moves being made, the more, handicapped those smaller team markets continue to become because their teams just can't seem to get the players to want to stay. Kemba Walker is an example. He came to us, and the only reason is because he feels he's got a better chance to win with us. He didn't want to go to New York. He didn't want to go to Brooklyn because Irving and Durant were already going over there. He didn't want to go to L.A. So I respect Kemba for coming to us rather than running to one of those bigger markets in this situation. But even us, we're not a market that can compete with New York and L.A. when it comes to giving all the extra benefits of movie stars, commercials, shoe and shirt deals, and everything else that comes with it in this situation. Garnett and Pierce didn't get that benefit as much when they were here. How can we offer it to these kids today?
And to close the show, so practically Boston Celtics roster is set. We talk about it on 240th show. We will have Summer League chat. Boston Celtics defeated Philadelphia last night in Las Vegas Summer League. We will continue to follow Summer League in Wimbledon Green Celtics Fans Forum. Stay with us. Summer League chat Summer League video chat, chat number 44, will be done after the Summer League is over. For the Celtics, we will recap the games, we will recap the players, and we will recap, we will make prognosis what will happen with the players the next year. Will he stay on the Celtics? Will he go to, for example, Maine, or will he be cut from the roster? Anyway, that's it. It was great conversation. Danny and the viewers, wishing you a good night, and we will talk with you the next time. The next show, 19th July, 6 p.m. Eastern. Stay with us and have a good night. Daniel?
Yep, so we'll see you all basically within the next 2 weeks. It was a good showing yesterday from what I got to see from the highlights from the young guys that Danny Ainge managed to draft. Taco, forget it. My father met, it was like, damn, that boy looks like KG. That's who I thought it was on the court. You know, that kid is, Danny Ainge decides to let him play this season. Can possibly really be added benefit for him getting some minutes. But we got an opportunity. If the guys play like that, play the way they did last night, the rest of this summer league, who knows? They might be able to win the whole thing. But it was a good first showing, and we'll have coverage for you the rest of the summer league inside the group with the play-by-play coverage. Again, the next game in this situation is tomorrow night, if I'm correct. And then from there, you got 2 more left before the NBA, the Summer League playoffs, I guess you can say, start on July 12th all the way to the 15th. So at the latest, we will talk to you with the Summer League video chat on July 16th.
Okay, so have a good night all, and go Celtics.